It's funny how life changes when you're not paying attention. One minute everything feels normal, stable even, and the next it's like the ground beneath your feet gives way and suddenly nothing feels real. My name's Claire, and for the longest time I thought I had a pretty good grip on who I was. I had a job I loved, a cozy little apartment, and most importantly, I had Ava, my best friend. We met when we were 8 years old. She was the new girl in school, all braces and oversized glasses, sitting alone on the swings. I offered her my fruit snacks, and from that moment on, we were inseparable. Over the years, we were each other's anchor. She was there when my parents divorced, when I flunked calculus, and even when I almost married the wrong guy. In return, I helped her through her battles with self-esteem, a toxic family, and her never-ending search for belonging. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what was coming. It all started with something small. Ava began borrowing my clothes more often. First, it was casual, a jacket here, a blouse there. We were the same size, and she'd always ask. But then, she started showing up in outfits I didn't even remember lending her. She styled her hair like mine, bought the same brand of perfume I wore. Brunch one weekend, even my boyfriend, Mark, commented on it. "You two are practically twins," he laughed, sipping his coffee. "You're sure you're not related?" We all chuckled, but I remember the way Ava looked at me across the table. Her smile was tight, her eyes unreadable. I brushed it off at the time. She was probably just flattered. But that was the beginning. One night I got home from work, exhausted and starving, only to find Ava already there, sitting on my couch in my clothes, sipping wine from my favorite glass. I didn't even hear her come in. She had a spare key, of course. We trusted each other with everything. "Hope you don't mind," she said casually, kicking her feet up. I needed a change of scenery. It was off. But again, I let it go. She'd been having a rough week, and I didn't want to make her feel unwelcome. But as the weeks went on, I noticed more changes. She started picking up my mannerisms. She laughed like me, told jokes the same way I did, even started getting her nails done at the same salon, asking for the exact colors I'd pick. It started to feel like she wasn't just admiring me, she was becoming me. Then came the day that shook everything. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a photo of Ava. She was at a networking event, the same one I had RSVP'd to but ended up missing because of a last-minute work crisis. In the photo, she was laughing with a group of people I knew, wearing the exact outfit I had planned to wear. Down to the heels. The caption read, "So proud to represent the team tonight. #marketing grew #winning. My stomach dropped. She was pretending to be me. The moment I saw that post, a strange chill settled in my chest. Clicked on the photo again, zoomed in. My outfit. My necklace. Even my signature side braid. The eerie part wasn't that she was wearing it all. It was the fact that she wore it exactly like I would. I scrolled through the comments. "Looking gorgeous, Claire. Your presentation was fire tonight. So inspiring to see you kill it like always. Wait, what?" They thought she was me. My heart began to race. I refreshed the post again and again, hoping the comments would change. Maybe someone would correct them. Maybe Ava would reply and clarify. But she didn't. She liked the comments. Every single one of them. She was letting people believe she was me, and she was loving it. I didn't call her that night. I couldn't. I needed to think, to figure out how to confront her without blowing up years of friendship. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. She had crossed a line, and I wasn't sure she planned to come back. The next morning, I arrived at work only to be met with confused looks from my coworkers. "Hey Claire," one of them said, "didn't you present those analytics to the client last night? I thought you said you couldn't make it." I froze. "I didn't," I replied slowly. "I had to cancel last minute." "Why?" He frowned. "Oh, that's weird. Ava said you were amazing." Wait, Ava was there, right? There it was. Proof. She was going around as me, using my name, my reputation. I rushed out of the office and called her. Ava, I said the moment she picked up. We need to talk. Now. She met me at a nearby cafe. When she walked in, her face lit up like nothing was wrong. She even hugged me like we hadn't spoken in weeks. Hey, bestie, she smiled. I pulled away. Don't. Just sit down. Her smile faltered. She sat. I pulled up her Instagram post on my phone and slid it across the table. What is this? She stared at it, then looked up at me with a little shrug. You couldn't go. I didn't want the team to miss out on your ideas. I presented them for you. That's not what this looks like, I snapped. People thought you were me, Ava. She blinked, then smirked. So what? We've always shared everything. Clothes, our stories, our lives. Not my identity, I whispered. There was a pause. A long, uncomfortable silence. You're overreacting, she said coolly. I was helping you. I didn't know what to say. Her calmness unsettled me more than anger would have. I left the cafe that day with a knot in my stomach, one I couldn't untangle. The woman I had trusted more than anyone was slipping into my life like a glove, and no one seemed to notice. Or worse, no one cared. Ava backed off for a while. Or maybe I just thought she did. I stopped posting online for a few weeks. I kept to myself, tried to reset, refocus, and reclaim space in my own life. I told myself she was just going through something, that maybe all this would pass, that our friendship could survive if I just gave it time. But then the small things started happening again. Only this time they weren't so small. First, she showed up to a charity event I was scheduled to speak at. I hadn't told anyone I had dropped out. Yet she somehow had all the materials I had prepared and delivered them like she'd written every word herself. I found out through a tagged photo on Facebook. Again, people thought it was me. Then, she started showing up in places I was supposed to be. Clients I had pitched to began reaching out to her. My inbox slowed. Hers exploded. The final straw? My parents. They called me one Sunday after having dinner with Ava. Sweetheart, my mom said on the phone. It was so great seeing you last night. I paused. What? Dinner? With us. You said you'd bring that new lemon pie recipe and, well, it was delicious. Ava said you were experimenting with baking lately. I hadn't seen them in weeks. I couldn't speak. Ava had gone to my parents' house. Shared a meal. Shared my stories. Shared me. She wasn't pretending to be close anymore. She was me. I drove to her apartment without thinking. I pounded on the door, heart racing, rage boiling. She answered, calm as ever. Hey, Claire. I pushed past her. You had dinner with my parents. You told them lies. You lied to people at work. You've stolen my clients, my ideas, my life. She didn't even flinch. I didn't steal anything, she said. I just stepped in when you weren't showing up. That's what best friends do, Claire. They fill in the gaps. I stared at her, horrified. You need help, I whispered. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. No, Claire. You need to realize that without me, you're just average. I made you interesting. I made people pay attention. I'm not stealing your life. I'm perfecting it. That night, I left feeling like I had just argued with a shadow, someone who knew every corner of my world and had quietly claimed it as her own. She wasn't just copying me anymore. She believed she was me. And somewhere deep inside, I realized something truly terrifying. If I didn't stop her soon, the world might start to believe it too. After that confrontation, I thought things might simmer down. Ava had been exposed, at least to me, and surely that had to count for something. But it didn't. If anything, she doubled down. She began painting me as the unstable one. Started subtly, a comment here, a planted seed of doubt there. She'd run into mutual friends and say things like, "Claire's been really overwhelmed lately. I'm worried about her." To my colleagues, she'd say, "Claire might not be up for that pitch. She's been acting erratic, you know?" It was infuriating. But worse, it worked. People started pulling away. Texts came less frequently. Invitations dried up. Clients stopped returning emails. It was like watching my life slowly sink beneath the surface while Ava floated above, wearing my smile, using my charm, holding the life I had worked so hard to build. I tried to fight back. I reached out to my closest friends and told them everything, how she'd copied me, taken my opportunities, manipulated my parents. But I could see the hesitance in their eyes, even if they nodded along. Ava had gotten to them first. She had rewritten the narrative. I was no longer Claire, the successful, grounded one. I was Claire, the jealous, insecure friend who couldn't handle someone else's success. And that narrative stuck. I started spiraling. My confidence crumbled. I questioned every word I said in public, wondering how it might be twisted. I began second-guessing my own choices, feeling like a stranger in my own mind. That's when I decided I needed distance. Real distance. I took a sabbatical from work, packed a suitcase, and left the city. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just drove until the skyline disappeared and the trees returned. I rented a small cabin by a lake and turned off my phone. I needed to remember who I was before Ava. Before the manipulation. Before the lies. Before my identity became a battleground. First week was quiet, too quiet. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost. The career, connections, confidence. But slowly, a different rhythm began to return. I started writing again. Not for work, not for social media, just for me. I journaled every memory I had with Ava. Every red flag I had ignored. Every gut feeling I had dismissed. And as I wrote, something incredible happened. My voice came back. Not the curated, filtered voice I used online. My voice. The one Ava couldn't fake. And in that quiet, I made a decision. I wouldn't let her win. Not like this. After 2 months away, I returned to the city. Not with fireworks. Not with some grand announcement. Just quietly. Focused. Intentional. I had a plan now. I wasn't going to confront Ava again, at least not the way I had before. That had been emotional. This time, I'd be strategic. I'd reclaim my voice, my reputation, and my identity, piece by piece. I started by rebuilding my relationships, not by defending myself or retelling the drama, but just by showing up. I reached out to a few friends who I believed still had doubts. I invited them to coffee, one-on-one. No accusations. Just conversations. Some were hesitant, but a few surprised me. One friend, Taylor, said something that stuck with me. Honestly, I always thought it was weird how she kept posting pictures of herself in your old clothes. I just didn't want to say anything. That was my opening. I showed Taylor screenshots, side-by-side photos, text messages Ava had sent me, the email she'd written to a brand under her name using my portfolio. Taylor's face went pale. She hadn't realized how deep it went. Neither had anyone else. With her support, I slowly started sharing the truth, carefully, calmly, with receipts. It wasn't about drama anymore. It was about truth. And the truth, when delivered with clarity and patience, is hard to ignore. People started seeing Ava differently. Not all at once, but it happened. There was a shift. Clients started reaching back out. Brands reconnected. One friend even told me, "It's crazy, once you stepped away, everything about Ava started feeling off." I didn't need to shout anymore. The truth was doing the work. But Ava? She noticed the shift too. She started lashing out, not at me directly, but online. Cryptic posts. vague stories, passive-aggressive comments. She was unraveling, because without my life to copy, her image started cracking. And then came the final blow. A former colleague who had worked with Ava briefly after I left reached out to me. She said Ava had tried to pitch an idea to a brand, word for word something I had presented 2 years ago in a private deck. Only she hadn't even bothered to change the branding. They recognized it instantly as my work. Company sent me an email, not Ava, offering to collaborate again. They apologized for the confusion. That email was all I needed. It was proof. Clear, irrefutable proof. I posted it, not on a huge platform, not with drama, just a quiet story on LinkedIn. A soft, professional correction of the record. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in, support, apologies, even admissions from others who had felt something was off about Ava but hadn't said anything. She was done. And me? I wasn't just reclaiming my life, I was rebuilding it stronger than before. I never planned to tell this story publicly. Not like this. Not in detail. But something changed after that post. After people started seeing the truth, I realized this wasn't just about me. This was about anyone who's ever had their identity hijacked, their light dimmed, their story rewritten by someone else. Because when someone like Ava steps into your life, wearing your skin like a costume, it doesn't just confuse others, it shakes you to your core. You begin to doubt your worth, your place, your reality. But here's what I learned. You can't truly be replaced. No matter how good someone is at mimicking you, pretending to be you, even living parts of your life better than you did, it's still not their life. It's a borrowed costume, a fragile mask. And masks? They crack eventually. I spent months rebuilding my business, but more importantly, I rebuilt myself. I rebranded under my real name, started fresh. A new visual identity, new clients, new platforms. No shadows. For the first time in years, I stopped obsessing over being liked and focused on being true. True to my voice, my art, my pace, my boundaries. Ava disappeared from most people's radar after the fallout. She tried to pivot into a new niche, but without someone else's identity to anchor to, her presence faded. I haven't heard from her since. And I don't need to. I wish her healing. I really do. Because only someone who doesn't feel whole would try to steal someone else's life. But this story, this warning, it stays with me. I share it now not to spark gossip, but to shine a light. Because if you're out there and you feel like someone is slowly replacing you, mimicking you, gaslighting you into doubting your reality, pay attention. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not insecure. Some people do play long games, subtle games, and sometimes the knife in your back looks like a borrowed smile. But here's the good news. You can take it back. Your life, your voice, your future, even if it takes time, even if no one believes you at first, even if the damage feels permanent. Because authenticity, when reclaimed, is the most powerful thing you own. I live differently now. More aware, more cautious, but also more grounded. And if telling my story helps even one person escape the grip of manipulation, then it was all worth it. And do not forget to comment, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because now, finally, I'm living the life that was always mine.